divine spirit, we know that where two or more are gathered, you are with us, you're amongst us. And we can feel your presence and your power in this place. Opening our hearts and our minds so that we may let your love flow through us and out into this community and the world. We thank you for all those that are here for the first time, that have found this place that we call our spiritual home. And we ask that as this service progresses, that everyone gets a strong message of your love as we begin the service today. And for that, we say thank you, God. So it is. Amen. And now if you'll join me, we'll say our vision. A world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. Our mission? In loving community, we nurture and inspire spiritual growth by modeling and teaching universal spiritual principles. Our values? Welcoming, diverse, prayerful, transformational, abundant, joyful, and empowering. And our statement of being: God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
Good morning, everybody. This first selection is, the song was written by Amanda McBroom. And a little tidbit of the story is, she was just beginning her career in the 70s, and she had a manager that was trying to get her to write some big standard hit. But she just kind of felt lost as an artist. And she was driving down the highway one day in the late 70s, and Leo Sayers was on the radio singing a song. And one of the lines was, that she heard was a song, some say love, it's like a razor. And she thought that was so interesting, and she was so drawn to that, but that's not what she felt love was about. So she just really started to think about it on the highway, on the way home, and she thought, what do I think about love? And she said, all of a sudden her mind just opened up, and like floodgates came through, didn't know where it was coming from, all these words, and she kept reciting it over and over to try to remember, and then she reached into her driveway, ran past the barking dogs and her husband in a fury, sat down to the piano, like Hector, sat down to the piano and just whipped this song out in 10 minutes because they were just pouring into her mind. And in 10 minutes, The Rose came out. So she played it for her husband, and he said, this is a standard, honey. And she said, nah, this is just for you and my friends. And it was a year later that her partner, a writer, came to her and she said, you know, there's a movie about Janis Joplin, and they need a song. And she said, I really think you need to submit this song. And the film was originally going to be called The Pearl, which was, I believe, Janis Joplin's middle name. But they changed it to The Rose, and this song happened to be called The Rose. And she's like, okay. They submitted it. They hated it. They turned it down and put it in the rejected pile, excuse me. And then they resubmitted it again, got rejected again. Finally, they submitted her manager submitted it to Bette Midler personally and privately. She loved it, and that's how the song came to be. So it's kind of a neat story. And the final thought is, she said that she truly felt that she was the window that happened to be open, where these thoughts needed to be brought through. So just the thought, just listen to these words, because it's really interesting. I never thought about it until I read this. I've heard it for almost 40 years. Here we go. Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it
Good morning. How are we all doing this morning?
How are you this morning?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. I'm here with all of you. Good morning, my name is Claudia and I am honored to be your platform assistant for today. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, where we know, love, and serve God through our Sunday celebrations, our classes, our meditations, and all of you, our community. We are we not so lucky to have the musical talent that we have? Yeah. We're very appreciative of them, and that was a beautiful rendition of The Rose. It made me cry. I was like, she's making me cry, and I have to come up here with running mascara. Fabulous. All right. Well, will you please join us in our joy song? The words will be on the screen.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, let's get this party started. I am the radiant light of God. I am, I am, I am. I am the radiant light of God. I am, I am, I am. The health of God, the strength of God, vitality, energy, vim of God. I am the radiant light of God. I am, I am, I am. I am the wonderful love of God. I am, I am, I am. I am the wonderful love of God. I am, I am, I am. The peace of God, the joy of God, serenity, harmony, rhythm of God. I am the wonderful love of God. I am, I am, I am. I am the wisdom and power of God. I am, I am, I am. I am the wisdom and power of God. I am, I am, I am. The light of God, success of God, prosperity, happiness, might of God. I am the wisdom and power of God. I am, I am, I am.
I am, I am, I am. You're awake now? I feel like we need to do a jig or something. Well, if you're here if you're joining us here for the first time, welcome to Unity. We would love to call you by your name. So if you would wear a name tag like most of us do, we would appreciate that. If you would like a welcome packet, please visit our concierge, which is directly through the door and to your left after the services. We'd be happy to give you a welcome packet, as well as answer any questions you may have about Unity. Okay, so it's that time of service where we get to go and get our vitamin H. Yes, that's for hugging. Okay. We are a hugging community. If you prefer not to be hugged, just put out your hand for a handshake, hopefully. Right? Now, as we know in Unity, they teach us that things are created twice. First in thought, and then in the physical realm. So, we love to hug here, and we sometimes have a challenge of getting back into our seats when Hector plays the ditty on the piano. So this morning, I spent some time before I came here imagining in thought that all of you went back to your seats right away today. So the next step is for that to come into fruition. But then I thought, I'll sweeten the pot just a little bit this morning. If y'all get back to your seats in a timely manner, I'm going to share a really big secret with you that some of you already know, but some of you don't. But only if you get back in your seats. On your mark, set, go! So how many of you think that you did a good job and that I should tell you? Okay. So as you might have noticed, I wasn't in church last Sunday. Right? That's because I was in Tampa getting engaged. Thank you. Well, how did I get engaged in Tampa? It was very romantic. He was a very gentle man. He asked me to honor him by being his wife, and then went on to tell me the many ways that I've impacted him, although he doesn't know that he has impacted me mutually. So I'm very excited. So since we're in, thank you. we're in the mood to celebrate, and today is the first Monday of the month, if you have an anniversary this month of May, please stand so that we can celebrate you. And next, if you have a birthday in the month of May, please rise so we can sing to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
And many more. And now, Steve Camp, our prayer chaplain of the day, will come up and bless the prayer box and read the daily word and the spiritual, which I coordinated with today.
Good morning, everyone. Would all the prayer chaplains that are in service today please rise? Wonderful, you've got a great show. Any of the rest of you, or even you, if you have need for any personal prayer support, just see any one of those people who wear these purple scarves. And we do have 2 rooms, one on each side that are prayer rooms, and if you prefer to have it quieter, you can go in there, but just make sure you check with the prayer chaplain and don't just go in there. You may not realize you're in there. We are honored to be of service and thank the rest of you prayer chaplains for doing this today. I'm going to read from the Daily Word, and today's word is prosperity. By the way, you can buy this book in the bookstore. That's on the other side off of the community room for those of you that are new here. The scripture for this day is from Luke chapter 12, verse 32. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Most of us know just that last part, but that's the whole thing. The abundance of the universe flows to me, and I accept it with joy and gratitude. Some people may think of prosperity as something to be earned, a goal to be achieved. In spiritual truth, prosperity is a natural expression of divine love, the infinite essence of all life. Prosperity flows abundantly through every atom in the universe and through every cell of my body. If my prosperity feels stifled, I know that any limitations are of my own making. Perhaps I'm forgetting to stay vigilant against such thoughts when they appear. Not to worry. Such negative thoughts are dissolved as I appreciate the many ways in which prosperity is already expressing in my life. My prosperity comes when I experience more of God. I open my heart to receive and accept the abundance of the universe. And if you would say the message here on the board. The abundance of the universe flows to me. I accept it with joy and gratitude. The spiritual power of the month is power. The corresponding color is purple. The center of power is located at the root of the tongue. Power is the ability to master, have dominion, and control. Power is represented by Mary of Magdalene and the disciple Philip. Mary Magdalene traveled with Jesus as one of his followers. She was present at Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. She has been described as courageous and brave enough to stand by Jesus in his hours of suffering, death, and beyond. After the resurrection and ascension of Jesus, Philip the disciple, who represents power, became noted for his ability to spread the message of truth through his speech. Please join me in saying the affirmation. The divine power in me moves urgently forward to claim a life filled with health, happiness, and prosperity. Say that one more time, because it's horrible. The divine power in me moves urgently forward to claim a life filled with health, happiness, and prosperity. And now we'll bless the prayer box. Today, I'm going to, rather than just extemporaneously with Spirit, come up with a prayer, I'm going to read a prayer. It's a blessing that comes from our booklet that the prayer chaplains put out this past year. It's called Heart-Shaped Prayers. It's still actually available in the bookstore if you, after the service, in there with it. These are, by the way, original co-created with Spirit. Prayers and affirmations for a variety of uses. And if you're new here to Unity, those of you who have been here a while know, because we sold out the first printing and we're halfway through the second printing. But those of you who might be new here, you might want to go in and just take a look at it and see if it's something that speaks to you. So let's close our eyes now and focus our attention on the prayer box, and in particular on the names of the people that are in the box. Let us visualize the breath of God flowing through each one of these individuals as the healing takes place in all areas of their bodies, minds, and spirits, awakening them to the presence of God flowing through them, in them, and around them. Help them to remember that they are one with all that is, and therefore are already perfect. And we give thanks for this healing that is taking place. Amen.
Is there anyone who has a moment of truth they want to share?
Yeah, no one else. As you all know, Annie is, okay. Thank you. Annie's been laid up a little bit for a while, but she's coming through very well. And on behalf of her, I just simply want to convey our thanks to every one of you. The message that I would leave with you is this: to be the recipient of so much love. This is a rarity. You expect that from a church. But by golly, the joyfulness and the way in which people have shown up at home and given of themselves, of their food, of their prayers, and everything else, we are thankful, and I speak for Annie. So thank you very, very much.
Have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way. Thou art the potter, I am the clay. Mold me and make me after thy will. While I am waiting, yielded and still. Have thine own way, Lord, have thine own way. Search me and try me, Master, today. Power on power, surely is thine. Touch me and heal me, Savior divine.
Now, if you'll close your eyes and sit erect in your chairs and with your feet on the floor, and uncross your limbs so that you let the power of power be received in your body, and let it pass through this power as we do this meditation. When we are in meditation, we go to a place within where we are one with our Creator. It's a very holy place within us, and a place where we can unload the burdens that we carry, where we can lay our concerns there on the altar, knowing full well that it's God's pleasure to take care of all the needs that you have. If there's things that are troubling you as you go to this sacred place, let them be made known, and ask for the guidance and help that you need to solve the problem that is at hand. And as you sit there, feel God's love enfolding you. See the light of God giving you wisdom and understanding. Feel the power of God working from the top of your head down into your feet, back down to the earth and back up through your body, healing whatever needs to be healed. And enjoy the warmth and the comfort of being with the one who created it in the silence. As we come back to this place in time, I'd like to read a poem written by Kurt Van Sickle. Make me an instrument, Lord, of thy peace. As I let go, as I release, make me an instrument, humble and free. As I awaken the living Christ in me. Make me an instrument, Lord, of thy peace. As I give love, love I receive. Make me an instrument humble and free, as I waken the living Christ in me. It's a beautiful prayer, and to that we say, thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
Teach
This next song was adapted into a melody. It's the Prayer of St. Francis. And in 1967, a South African songwriter named, I'm going to say his full name because it's kind of fun, but his full name was Johann Sebastian von Tempelhof. When he changed it to Sebastian Temple, so, which is my son's name, Sebastian. So, the song went on to be the anthem of the Royal British Legion, and it's very memorable when it was sung at Princess Diana's funeral, which was actually very appropriate because the song was called "Make Me a Channel of Your Peace."
Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, truth, faith in you. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, only light. And where there's sadness, ever joy. It's the lonely making me, who cannot seem to give before. It's only one that is every light to be loved and surround with all my soul. Bring me your channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let there be your love. Giving to all that they receive, and in dying they'll be born eternal life. Oh, Master, grant that I may never see so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all your soul. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, only light. And where there's sadness, ever joy. And where there's sadness, ever joy. Make me a channel of your peace.
Are we having any fun yet? Well, I have a list of people that we'd like to thank for their service this particular week. We had the spaghetti dinner participants, that did a marvelous job. We had a beautiful crowd here, and there was lots of fun, lots of energy in the room. If you had anything to do with that spaghetti dinner, would you stand up so we can recognize you? And of course, we had lots of volunteers that worked here in the church this week. Cheryl Harris, Joni Spires, Ellen Cronus, Rick Hall, John Campanelli, and Steve Camp. And we also want to thank the marketing team for their continual work of making this place known to others that haven't discovered us yet. So for all that, we say thank you. Where is my pointer here? Through the doors, when the service is over, when you go in to get something to eat, there are a bunch of sign-up sheets in there, but in particular, if you're interested in becoming a member of this church, one of the requirements is to, if you don't have, if you've never been part of a Unity church before, we'd like you to go to the Unity basic class, and there's a sign-up sheet in that room. There are several times that the class will be given, and we would like to know who's going to be there so we know how to prepare. So if you plan on joining the church, that would be the thing that you want to do, is put your name on the list so we know you're coming. Okay. One other thing. After this service, our team that put on the spaghetti dinner, which is the community outreach team, is having a guest speaker. He is the man who's in charge, is that right? He's in charge of the food bank?
He's the marketing director.
Marketing director of the food bank. He's going to be here to address us. That's one of the outfits that we support with our time and our monies. And he's going to give a presentation, and I think you'll find it very interesting. So please stay around for that. Okay. In the back row, the minister's wife for today is sitting. And when I finally got my licensed Unity teacher, stand up please. When I finally got to be a licensed Unity teacher, my wife turned to me and she said, I can't be a preacher's wife. And I said, well, suck it up, baby. And she says, well, I don't, the minister's wife always had to sit in the front row and had to wear a suit and a little pill hat and white gloves. She said, I refuse to do that. So today she has the hat on just to keep me loose. But she's sitting in the back row. You're supposed to be up here. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, today, the title of my talk is Using Our Spiritual Powers to Build Bridges. Now, you heard Steve give you a brief outline of the power of power. That's one of the 12 powers. That's why I say the power. It's one of the 12 powers, and it is the power of power. The location of power is in the center of the throat. And it controls the vibratory energies of the organism. It is the open door between the formless and the formed worlds of vibration. Now, what does that mean? It's where the ideas come from that enter our minds, that we then act on and try to make manifest here in the world. That's a Charles Fillmore, that came from Charles Fillmore's book on the 12 powers. The rest of the next 6 slides are from there too. The definition of power, according to Fillmore, is the innate control over, gives a man innate control over his thoughts and feelings. A quickening from the divine mind must precede the realization of dominion over power. Now, what is this quickening of the mind being. When you focus on God, God gives us a download, activates the heart center of our being, activates our soul. And it takes that in order for us to have dominion. Now, who knows what the meaning of dominion means? Mastery. Mastery. That comes from our wordsmith, Steve Camp. But that's right, I looked it up. I had to look it up in my Funkin' Wagnalls because I wasn't sure exactly what the meaning of that was. And when we say it gives us mastery over the power to control our minds and our feelings. God is all power. So we say in our statement of being, God is all powerful, omnipotent, if you would. Don't tell anybody I used to pronounce that omnipotent. My wife said that's not the way you pronounce that word. So God is omnipotent. Thus all things are possible with God. Because God is all powerful. So far we're together? Yes? So far. Now the spiritual power that was a definition. You know, the next thing is God is all powerful. We're going to get caught up here. Spiritual power is hold on. I've lost my place. Spiritual power is omnipresent. It is released in our bodies by spiritualizing our consciousness. Again, spiritualizing is raising the consciousness by keeping our eye on what? On God, on the divine spirit. Okay, so we're spiritualizing our consciousness by concentrating on God. This divine energy will flow through us as we erase negative thoughts from our consciousness and become one with God. Now, there's nobody here that has any negative thoughts. I know that. But for those people that you deal with outside of this community, you'll probably find one or two people that have a negative thought or two. Might that be possible? So if we are able to get those negative thoughts out of our consciousness, we become one with the God mind. And the divine energy, divine love, the divine power, the divine intelligence passes through us. Our job is not to hold it within us. Our job is to let it come out. And that's why the power of power is so powerful in the fact that when we concentrate on God, we get those divine ideas that flow through us, the divine energy in which to deliver them, and we can deliver them not from our head, but from our heart. Our words become powerful because people remember what you tell them from their heart. All ideas make a mark in the ethers of the world. What we see externally is controlled by something that we see internally. They talk about that Halloween thing and the Course that you love, the Course of Miracles. Don't they talk about we can't see in others what we don't see in ourselves? And especially when we get upset with somebody else, we get upset because we can see that very item, that very feeling within ourselves. We see what we want to see, don't we?
Looking in the mirror.
Yeah. We see what we want to see. And that's one of the problems with communications. We get locked on to our thing, don't we? And we're immersed in that. And we're in a time right now that we're trying to recover from. 2 years of the onslaught of negativity. Positions have been taken. And all we see is that those positions are our positions. And so when you come from a different direction, a person doesn't hear what you're saying. I've got a great example. A woman walked into the library and says to the librarian, "I'll have a hamburger, a large fries, and a Coke." Librarian says, "Madam, this is a library." Oh, the lady says, "I'm sorry, I'll have a hamburger." We have the highest power in the universe, the conscious power of thought. It comes with a great deal of responsibility because every word that man utters makes an imprint on the astral ethers, and that when there is consciousness of God life in the mind of the speaker, all his words become living identities and are perpetuated. I aspire to that. When we don't lose our focus on God, on Spirit, we can trust the downloads that we got. Marcella has shared a beautiful example about the lady with the rose. She became a channel for the download from the spiritual side. I don't need to remind you that there's two sides of us, right? There is the earthly being that we are, the body, and we are spiritual beings, the soul. And what this is saying to us is that we have to come at this from the soul level, from the spiritual level, as opposed from the carnal mind. Carnal mind has a tendency to live in its job is. It's the job of the ego mind to protect us. But that fills us with fear, right? I better not jump off the stage. If I don't land just right, I could hurt myself. So I better not do it. I don't want to do it. You do it, you're asking for trouble. Well, maybe I better not do it. We have a tremendous ability right now to be the bridge over the wide gap that exists in this country today and in many communities. We can build bridges so that in this community that never happens, that there never is a canyon, a gulf so wide that it cannot be connected. I feel that's where we are as a country today. We have polarization so wide, so diverse, that nobody's listening to anybody else. Back when I was a kid, I remember there was the word compromise. I think that doesn't exist anymore. Not in the way things are being run. Marge is of the opinion that we need to put feet to the words that we say. It's not enough just to say these things. What are you going to do about it? So let's examine what we can do about it. Marcella did a wonderful job on the rose. There was a little passion in that song, wasn't there? Did you feel that she was just singing the words, or was she singing from her heart? Wasn't that much more powerful than if she had just sung the words? Donna does the same thing when she sings. She doesn't sing just the words, she sings from the heart. She feels the emotion as she sings. She is connected with the spiritual side. And her singing is very powerful. But we have to be very, very careful. Because as the words in the rose say, our words can be sharp as a razor. And that's not all bad if it's in the hands of a surgeon who is carefully using that scalpel to rectify something that is not right in the body. But the knife can also be used for harm, can it? Put in the wrong hands, it can be a deadly weapon. And our words are the same way. When we come from our carnal mind, we have a tendency to let the ego mind overrule our spiritual mind. And we might use the words that are harmful as opposed to loving. We need to be centered in our spiritual consciousness if we want to be helpful to the people we're speaking to. How do you do that? I want to have a conversation with you, and how can I become spiritually centered before I speak to you? Prayer, meditation from our chaplain. Yes. What? Breath. Okay. To relax.
Think before you speak.
Think before you think before you speak. Listen. 2 ears, 1 mouth. You're supposed to be listening twice as much as you talk. Okay, I'm done. Being centered is a case of where if we are in the spiritual, if we keep our spirituality focused on God, we are halfway there already, aren't we? Now all we have to do is to allow ourselves to be quieted so that the information that would be best used in every situation is downloaded to us. All we have to do is trust that what we're getting will be helpful. Every once in a while, you get lucky. Somebody that you've been speaking to, and you might not have been holding a philosophical discussion, but you're just talking off the cuff, a friend to a friend. And that friend comes back to you many months later, maybe years later, and said, "You changed my life forever." I did? How did I do that? Well, you said, we were there and we were talking about this, and you said, and they quote what you said, that pierced the outer armor and went directly to the heart of that person. That person then took that and used it to change their lives. So, this power that we have can do wonderful things. We must train ourselves to come from a place of love and to use our spiritual mind in order to have the power. I have a slide for this. All right. No. There we go. We use our power to build bridges across the Great Divide. Now, I asked the question of Spirit, how can I convey to people my love for them? How is it possible to do that? And the answer came from an email that somebody sent me, and it was a quote from the Dalai Lama. Love is kindness. Love is kindness. So if you want to come from a place of love, what's the kind thing to do? Was it you that had the one on there? No, it's the lady up in the Ocala church. It's better to be kind than to be right. Yeah, but you're saying something that's wrong, and I don't think it's right. It's better to be kind than to be right. Let them have their opinion. They're entitled to it, aren't they? You don't have to agree with it. But you can be kind enough to listen and say, okay, I appreciate the position you're coming from. If we don't do it that way, we get in a clash, don't we? Because we insist on our way and they're insisting on their way. And remember, we're the Great Divide. We have the northern rim of the Grand Canyon, and they're looking at it from the northern rim. We're over the southern rim, and we're looking from the southern rim. And if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon and been to both rims, you know that it's entirely different. The view is entirely different. The view changes as the sun crosses the sky. Oh, be there at sunrise. Be there at sunset. It's glorious. If you haven't been there yet, put it on your bucket list. I came across the prayer of St. Francis, and I have them in a slide format, and I want us to use this as the method in which we can build bridges. Hold on just a second. We want to forget the never-ending struggle that we as humankind seems to always want to do, and that is to have power over other people. That's the humanness that we see happening. And it doesn't happen only in the political arena, it happens in business, and it happens in just about every place where there are people. There's a search for power. The idea has lured people who have sought that power only for them to find out that they're disappointed and disillusioned when things don't work out the way they want them to do. Because when you want power, you want it your way, in your time, and God doesn't work that way. Power is a gift from God. It's freely given, but is a gift to be used under God's direction only. Power is rightly used under the direction of the Christ Spirit within you, the God self of each individual. It will accomplish good beyond our present ability or imagination to imagine what we can do with that power. This is the prayer of St. Francis. Would you say it with me as we read down through this particular thing? Lord, make me an instrument. We are here not to be served, but to serve. Let us go forth from this place and be servants to all that we meet. Let us be loving, let us be kind, let us be gentle. Let us bring love to the situation. And in doing so, we are building a bridge. A bridge that, if it comes from our spiritual side, which will last, which will bring healing. which will make a difference in the world. Namaste. You may have the next slide so I know what I'm doing. Okay. How many of you are here for the first time? Would you raise your hand? So thank you for joining us. We're glad that you're here. We feel blessed that you've attended today, and we'd like to give you a blessing in return. Would you join me? We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. The Christ in me sees the Christ in you. Namaste. Now it's time for our offering, because I see the offering orders up on the board. So would you take your offering in your hand? And let's bless this together. Divine love has me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful.
You know, all the power that we need to make a difference in this life is within us. It's all in this room, right? So repeat after me. If it's up to me, no. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. Right? He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 Everybody. He's got my brothers and my sisters in her hands. She's got my brothers and my sisters in her hands. She's got my brothers and my sisters in her hands. She's got the whole world in her hands. I've got the sun and the rain in my hands. I've got the moon and the stars in my hands. I've got the wind and the clouds in my hands. I've got the whole world in my hands. We got everybody here in our hands. We got everybody there in our hands. We've got everybody everywhere in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands.
Would you join me up here as we bless this money that is given, the tithes and the offerings that have come in. And we thank you for this money that is being used to spread the word that we are one with you, to send the love out into the community, and it will be returned tenfold. And for that we say thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. All right, it's time to make 2 circles. You have enough to make 2? Okay, 2 circles.